Welcome to Learning Unlocked. I'm your host, Britt Bingold. As an instructional specialist in Gilbert, Arizona, I'm a total nerd when it comes to classroom strategies and educational pedagogy. Educators are the key holders to unlocking learning for students. So today, as always, my goal is to provide you with resources and tools, the keys, to enable and accelerate learning for all students. Thanks for joining me today. Let's get started. Welcome back, key holders. Before we get started today, I just wanted to remind you that if you are a Gilbert Public Schools employee, you can get 1 hour of recertification credit by going to the Employee Hub and navigating to Digital PD on Demand. Welcome to episode 11 of Learning Unlocked. I cannot believe we're on episode 11, and you guys, I love this. Oh my gosh, it's like one of my favorite parts of this job now. It's lovely to be able to talk to so many different educators in our state, and hopefully one day out of our state. But today our guest is Liz Evans, and I think I've only met her once in person, but she's one of those people that we found each other on social media. It came those like internet besties where somebody posts something and she would reply and I would reply and we would both be like, yes. And to be able just to talk to her in person today honestly filled my cup so much, because she's just such a lovely human. And so that was super exciting, and you can probably tell how excited we were just to be able to talk to each other in person throughout the interview. But I think her commentary today on how to avoid teacher burnout and how to avoid the comparison trap that some teachers get in, I think is just worth its weight in gold. And so I really think this interview today is going to help a lot of us figure out how to balance our time more so that we can be better teachers for our students. I hope you enjoy the interview with Liz Evans. And hi guys, welcome back to the podcast. Today I'm really excited to have a special guest on, Liz Evans, and currently she's working for a nonprofit, and then she's also mentoring new teachers, which is awesome, and she's also got a really great blog, which we're going to plug later. But Liz, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself a little bit more to our listeners?
Thanks, Britt. So again, my name is Liz Evans. I've been in education for 18 years. I started my career in Gilbert, actually. I started my first year teaching was at Greenfield Junior High, and then I helped open South Valley Junior and was there for 10 years. And then I switched over to Basha High School and taught AP Government and Politics, along with everything, because my time in Gilbert, I had taught 8th grade the whole time, 8th grade social studies. And I loved it, but just got to a point where I needed to challenge myself with something different. I was the department chair for 13 years, became a teacher mentor to new teachers because I had some really amazing teacher mentors in Gilbert, and I wanted to be able to pass that on. I'm nationally board certified in social studies and history, and I basically just love to help teachers. So like you said, I currently work at a nonprofit. I mentor new teachers, and I love to write my blog because it's another way for me to just reach out and help people who want it. So that's me.
Well, and I love your blog because you don't always stay in the AP government realm. You know, like you still are able, or even social studies, you bring in so much for all teachers in general to read, which I think is awesome.
Well, thank you. And that's kind of the hope is it's like with any other professional development or anything that you read, is if you can take something little from it and apply it to your practice or your classroom, that's my biggest hope.
Yeah, that's ours too. I mean, every day I just wake up and I'm like, okay, how can I help teachers right now? And it's so overwhelming and frustrating sometimes to not even know where to start. because they're going through so many different things. And then as a parent too, watching it from the other side and just like wanting to reach through the screen and just hug the teacher because
Yes.
they are just struggling. And I just want to like walk by my kid behind her and be like, "You're doing great," with like two thumbs up, or something. So I've been trying to encourage my kids' teachers because it's tough right now.
It is. It's really hard. And my husband is actually a teacher. So for me, it's, I'm watching my fourth grader learn online. Um, and then I'm watching him teach online and try to navigate all of these different things. And a lot of the things I dealt with last year, fourth quarter, because when I was teaching is when everything kind of happened. So for me, because I had so much help as a new teacher and it helped develop me into the person that I am today, I feel like it's it's karma. You need to pass that on and you need to help that next generation of teachers feel confident in their teaching, regardless of what else is happening.
Liz, I feel like you're my soul sister.
I know. I love us.
When you just spoke just then, I just got chills. Like, yes, that is exactly what we should be doing. Oh my gosh. So we got to get to this interview. Otherwise, we're not going to get this done. But I'm feeling we would just talk forever. So okay, let's go with my first question. So
Okay.
obviously our country right now, there is a ton of pressure on teachers. And like you said, I literally have gone from this place where I used to be very tame in how I spoke about politics and ethics and things that I normally would be very quiet about. And I've come to this place where I feel like I've just been untamed because they're attacking my people. They're attacking my colleagues and my students and saying that they need to go back to school. And I just feel like there's so much pressure on teachers right now because they want to be back. It's not that they're like sitting there twiddling their thumbs thinking, wow, I wonder what I'm going to do today. Like they're working so hard and they're pushing themselves to the limits of their capabilities. And I think it's like really taking a toll on their own families. So I feel like sometimes the efforts are noticed. Like I said, there's a lot of teachers that have great parents out there or guardians or students even that are like, thank you, you're doing a great job. But you and I both know many times these things go completely unnoticed. Like we have no idea what our reach or what our impact was, especially teaching as long as we did. And so, what are some practical strategies where these teachers who are uncertain of their worth can figure out how to sustain this career in education as it is now, but also as it's going to be in the future? Because I think it's going to look different even when we get back into school.
Yeah, there's not going to be a return to what it was. We'll always have this, different scope on things. I think for me, one of the biggest things is staying off social media, which is hard because a lot of us use that to connect. But what ends up happening is you get stuck reading the comments or
Mm-hmm.
you see a teacher and they've done this really amazing thing and you can't do that. And so because teaching within itself is a job that you often don't get noticed because a lot of those things happen in your classroom and the kids leave you at the end of the year and unless they reach out or you see something they've done you don't ever get to really see your impact.
Yeah.
And so for me, when I first started teaching in 2003, there wasn't Instagram. I had no way to compare myself to other people. And I
Mm-hmm.
think that that is one of the biggest things is we get stuck in this, I see teachers doing X, Y, and Z and why can't I have a Bitmoji classroom and all of this stuff? And I think that they're great, but it's also not the end all be all because at the end of the day, you have to take stock of what's important. I've burnt out a couple of times in teaching, but in 2016, I had kind of my ultimate burnout.
Me too. Oh my
Teaching prep,
gosh. Oh,
teaching
yep.
AP government, the election.
Mhm.
I'm thinking I have to do all of this stuff. And I finally what happened was I got to a point, I always asked my kids to reflect on things that we've done because I want to make sure that it's something that works. And a lot of them said, like, why are you so stressed all the time? It sucks. You're stressed. And it was like, well, that's not fun. Um,
You're like, clearly I'm delivering
yeah.
this. without even knowing it.
I
Yeah.
know. But after that, I started setting some pretty firm boundaries around my time.
Okay.
And I think that that's something, especially in this digital world, that teachers need to be mindful of. And the word no is a great thing. So for me, with my nonprofit, the nice thing is I have to bill my hours. And so I have to actually be very cognizant of how I spend my time. Um, and that was always a thing in teaching. So my boundaries were, hey, I don't accept late work, but obviously there are, extenuating circumstances. Sometimes technology fails. I only take late work, a week maybe. And again, it depends on the situation. But hey, guys, I don't grade it right away. I'm only going to be putting in late work from 2 to 3 on Fridays.
Yep.
I'm only going to, if I assigned something, I would say, okay, I'm going to assign this essay or this piece of writing, and I'm going to grade it on my prep on Thursday. Or I'm going to take half an hour every day to grade it. And I'm actually going to put that into my calendar. And so when people come in and they say, like, hey, Liz, do you have a second? Actually, I don't. Can you come back later? Or can you send
Hmm.
me an email and let's schedule something? Because I think as teachers, we're givers. We're givers of time.
Yeah.
We're givers of all of this stuff. So
No, and
having
I have to do that. So in this job, there's a lot of reading. Um, I have to read a lot of books on pedagogy and strategies and all of those things. And if I don't have time to read I have to actually set in my calendar, this is my reading time. Like, and that counts as part of my workday. Like, I can't go to a teacher and say this strategy is research based and practical if I haven't done the research.
right.
So it's the same kind of thing. You block that out as busy. You have to honor that as busy. You can't then schedule something else and just put it off because you'll never get it done. And it's easier said than done. But I think if it starts to become a habit, you have to see yourself as a teacher as also first a human, and you need time to get these things done. And I was always the one, I took late work too, a week late, and I would always create it on one day. So you're speaking my language. But it was, I'm sorry, kids, I'm not going to be the teacher that's going to open my room for you during lunch.
Nope.
I am, and they knew that. They wanted to hang out with me. I had the couch and the chairs and the flex seating, and I'm like, honestly, guys, I need that time. I need that time to sometimes just stare at the wall, because I need silence for a little while so that I can be the best teacher I can be when my next class comes in. And when I explained it like that to them, it wasn't like I was dissing them. Like,
Mhm.
I don't love you. I don't want you in here. Feel free to come in from 7 to 7:30 before the bell rings. I don't care if you watched me set up class for the day and you wanted to hang out with me, that's fine. But during that lunch period, I need that time.
Well, and that was always my thing with late work because I'd have students that say, like, can't you just take 5 minutes to grade it? And I remember asking a kid, where is that 5 minutes coming from? Because then that comes from my daughter, because I
Hmm.
actually need to get home and help her with her homework, or it's taking away from my husband. Um, where is that 5 minutes coming from? Because I already actually scheduled time to do this. And again, there's always situations that are
Right.
like, yeah, I'll totally take this and grade it. Actually, during lunch, I used to sit and watch The Office, like straight up, because it was 20 minutes. I would always
Yep.
bring a lunch that I didn't need to microwave. And that was my, like, I have to give my brain a break. And I
Yes.
would turn off my Outlook. I would turn off all my notifications. I would put a black curtain over my window. And I would tell, like, it was just, I have to have this time, you know, 5 hours into my workday where I can just not for a second.
Well, and
And
people don't understand that, like office job people get to do that. Like, they have their lunch at their desk or something, and they can pull up a YouTube video and watch it for 20 minutes while they eat lunch. And teaching is just different. I just feel like people would be like, "Oh, she's watching The Office." It's like, no, I have to have a mental break so I can be the best teacher next hour. I mean, I need to have that release.
yes, and I actually brought a yoga mat into my classroom. And if I noticed that during the day I would get really stressed out, or I would start to feel that way, I would actually pull out my yoga mat, and sometimes I would just sit on it and like play music for myself. But
Mm-hmm.
just the act of getting out of my desk
Yep.
and putting, like, for me, a yoga mat, because I love to do yoga. Sometimes I just like to sit in child's pose, but it's still yoga.
Yeah.
But sometimes just putting myself in a different place was just like, okay, what is bothering me? Why is it bothering me? And can I change it? And if I can't change it, I need to let it go. Like, write it down, burn it. I mean, don't burn it because you can't do that in a classroom, but
Don't bring fire into the classroom.
but
Yeah.
it was that. And along with that, I had a routine for myself. So in the mornings, I would wake up and I would do two things. And it was always, I'm going to make myself a breakfast,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm going to spend 5 minutes meditating. And again, whether it was guided or not, because I had to differentiate sleep from work. Because
Yeah.
if not, I would just wake up and my mind would start working. And even my night routine, especially with a child, it was, we're going to come home. And from the time I pick her up to about 4:15 when she was done with homework, that was her time. That
Right.
was me helping her. I'm not checking emails. I
Yep.
am not available. And another thing was, on days I had to be off, whether I was sick, she was sick, whatever else, I made it very clear to everybody I'm not available, because people still would like text and email. And I got to the point where I just would respond the next day and be like, yeah, I was out yesterday, because again, it's the giving, and you want to make sure everybody's taken care of. But if you continue to do that, you just burn out. And then it just gets worse. And
This is
so,
speaking to me. You're speaking to
you know,
me right now because I feel like I am on 24/7 alert
yep.
because and I'm not usually. I'm usually the person that doesn't have my email on my phone. But since spring, because of my relationship with teachers
Hmm.
and my caring and giving, and sharing. Just sorry, I did the off. I just had to, and the giving and the sharing. It had to do the friends reference. But I'm reflecting now, thinking, yeah, I really do need to put up some boundaries because I really am on call. I feel like I even have people like, it's crazy. It's like email or it's texting or it's because I'm like one of the lead coordinators for our social media. I get tons of PMs or DMs all hours of the night. And I'm like, people, I can't respond to your thing at 11. I want to, but it's 11 o'clock at night. Like, and I know you're working. And so then it makes me feel like I need to respond because these poor teachers are working at 11 o'clock at night. But I feel like they just think I'm reachable 24/7. And I think you're speaking right to me right now of like,
Girl,
I need some boundaries
you
because
need
I
to do
am,
not disturb.
this summer, I just feel like it was the summer that was not like, I did not stop because we were, tasked with trying to get ready for fall. And I just did not feel like I had a summer. So I feel like I started the year burned out. You know what I mean?
And for me, like, my phone goes on do not disturb at 7 p.m. and it does not go off of do not disturb until 5 a.m. And like, if the people on my favorites list, obviously, like if my mom calls or my husband
Right.
calls, or, that'll come through. And I have had to train myself, once, that 7 o'clock hits, your phone goes on your charger. You don't need it anymore. And
Yeah.
again, if something happens, like, the phone will ring. I always noticed too, when I would get really stressed out, I would delete social media from my phone. So it was actually harder for me to check those things.
Right.
And the thing I noticed is I actually wasn't missing out on a whole lot. Like, you think you're going to miss out on stuff, but it was like, I have to give my body and my brain that break. And it's not easy, but then it's like, if it's like anything else, when you're working out. I had an instructor, her name is Sydney, and she's amazing. But she would always say, like, when we were lifting weights and you're working hard, she's like, if you need to take a second and rest, do
Mm-hmm.
that, because you'll come back stronger. And that
Right.
that just stuck with me, because it's like, and that's my Sundays. Sunday, I do not do anything. Sunday,
Yeah.
maybe I go grocery shopping, but I am not and or if I want to be creative, like if I get an idea and I want to write in my blog, because to me that's not work.
Yeah.
But you're just still giving yourself that space. And I think that that is especially, with my husband too, because he's teaching. He's also teaching online, like for the online academy. He's also doing his master's degree.
Oh my
Like
goodness.
he is, he's so busy. And that has been something with us. It's like, let's put our phones away. Like you just need to take a break.
Yeah.
And I
I
think,
totally agree with that. I mean, I'm like, I just now reset my do not disturb. I'm not even joking. I did it while you were
well, and I do it too. Like if I'm working and I have, like today, we were both talking about, like I had so many meetings today. So I actually put my do not disturb on my computer on too. And it was like, every once in a while, because my Apple Watch will be like, hey, you haven't stood up. That's when I'll check my phone just to make sure everything's on the up and up. But I needed to get through emails. I needed to have these meetings. I needed to get ready because, we'll have science homework tonight. Um, and it is just, if you notice, and again, you're not judging yourself, but you're noticing how much time you spend on your phone. Like think about that, even like when you're talking about how kids like, hey, I just need a half an hour lunch, like telling yourself like, I actually just need a half an hour to do nothing. And that
right.
includes not being on my phone. um, it's super hard, but I think that also helps with the comparison trap or getting stuck in the comments. Also unfollow people, unfriend people, whatever you need to do to clean up that social media, so that when you get on it, it's a happy place.
Yeah, okay. So let's talk about that
Okay.
because the comparison trap is so huge. And I did the social media cleanup. I want to say the Great Purge of what was it, 2015 or something. It was like when Facebook was no longer happy. It was like,
Yes.
oh, I have to go. I'm sure it was probably around 2016. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to go on to Instagram and I'm not going to bring any Facebook people over. I'm just going to curate what I like and I am interested in, and that's like design and fashion. And at the time, I was either pregnant with Miles or maybe I just had Cam, but it was also like ideas for play and pretty things. I wanted to just look and scroll pretty things. I know that sounds weird, but it was just
No.
kind of like I'm so visual and it was a happy place for me. And then and my husband loves Twitter, and Twitter for me is just anxiety inducing because it's a lot of text to read. And so I was never able to like get on the Twitter bandwagon as much as I was on the Instagram. And so then all of a sudden I went down the teacher Instagram because they had what? Pretty classrooms. Okay.
Exactly.
So I was like, I want a pretty classroom. So let's talk about that. Let's talk about that comparison trap because I feel like a lot of teachers right now, especially like with the Bitmoji classrooms, are feeling that. And you do not have to have that to be a good teacher.
Also, if you have it, they're awesome and good for you.
And good for
I
you.
think
But you don't have to. Like,
yeah,
if you have it, fabulous. Because I can see, like for me, I always like decorating my classroom because that's creative and I love doing it. People would be like, why did you spend so much time on it? Well, because that's my creative energy.
yeah.
So if you made a Bitmoji, that's probably because you love being creative and making them. But if that's not your thing, that doesn't mean you're not a great teacher, you know?
Well, and I think that if I had done a Bitmoji classroom this year, my kids would have been like, why? Because that is not a you thing.
Mm-hmm.
And that's like, I mean, that's kind of the answer to your question, is asking yourself why. Like, why am I doing this? What am I expending this energy for? So, in my work with people who are going for their national board certification or just new teachers, my favorite question is always asking them, so how does that benefit your students? Like,
Say it again.
how does it benefit your students?
Great.
So this Bitmoji classroom, like, Emma's teacher had one, like their little fourth grade team had one, and it benefited her because she was like, it just made her less afraid.
Mm-hmm.
And she liked it, and that was cool. For me as a senior teacher of AP, the kids would have been like, oh,
What is
okay.
this?
Why?
Okay.
Well, and it's also out of my character because I know
Right.
that there's other senior teachers that do it, but that's in their character and that works for them.
Mm-hmm.
But again, this comparison trap or this burnout, like asking, how does it benefit your students? Is it addressing a problem in your classroom, or do you just feel like you have to do it because everybody else is?
Mm.
And my favorite thing to say to people is, you are the expert in your classroom. You know those kids, you know you're teaching, you know how to make it work. So if you're spending, time trying to do something because everybody else is doing it, where is that benefit for your kids and where is that benefit for you?
I
My
love
whole
that.
thing is, why, again, it's the curating of your ideas, but consider asking yourself why you follow the people you do and how it makes you feel when you see their stuff. Because I follow a lot of amazing people and I feel inspired when I see their stuff.
Me too. And it took me a long time to realize, and I just did a blog post about this. I don't know, probably like a month ago. I'm not really, my blog is, it's very hard to get to, but I was talking about how I'm trying to keep up with social media so that way when my daughter gets there, I kind of know what's going on,
Mm-hmm.
but that I've learned along the way who you follow and who you just let go and block and unfollow and just ignore is huge to your happiness and your joy. And it's, comparison is the thief of joy. We know this. And so taking those people away, I mean, I literally only go on Facebook maybe I get kind of sucked in because I run and help run the Facebook group for my district.
Yep.
If I didn't have that group on there, Facebook would be deleted off my phone because it is not necessarily a very happy place for me. You know what I'm saying? And so I think part of my job is I have to be on social media. And so sometimes I dip into other areas where I just the other day, I don't know if you saw my rage post, but I saw a parent just say, well, teachers just need to get back to work. And I was like, hold up. Teachers are working right now. Like, I don't think you realize. And I just kind of ranted. And then I'm like, this is why I don't go on Facebook.
Yep. Well, in situations like that, because, for me during the Red for Ed movement,
Yeah.
it was hard. It's hard to see people say things and they have no idea what's happening. And for me, my question was always, is this going to do any good? Like, is it
Mm-hmm.
going to do any good for me to say things? And girl, that unfollow button is amazing. And it is, or like you can take, like on Facebook, you can take a break.
Right.
I get on it because, again, I feel like as a social studies teacher, like I want to share things and I'm not always right. Even on Twitter today, I made a mistake and people called me out on it. And I was like, cool, thank you. Like I learned
Mm-hmm.
something today.
Yeah.
But with the negativity, it is like, one of my things too is I don't grab my phone first thing in the morning because
Mm-hmm.
it sets the tone for my day.
Right.
I
Me
read.
too.
I read a book.
Oh, so good. I get in the shower, but okay.
But it's something, or like I listen to a podcast that I like.
Right.
Wednesdays are my podcast jam. I got Michelle Obama, I got the
Mm-hmm.
Office ladies, I got Jonathan Van Ness. Like I'll just
Awesome.
listen to something that, and again, sometimes, because I used to listen to the Daily all the time, but it
Mm-hmm.
was like some of these things just don't make me feel good. So I'm just not going to do it. I mean, I know what's going on in the world enough that I don't
Right.
need all of this. And so I think that right now, teachers need to be supporting each other.
Yeah.
The school community, whether that's admin, teacher leaders, the front office staff, the custodial staff, like that almost needs to become its own little family and support system.
Mm-hmm.
There are amazing parents. I know at my daughter's school, they want to line the street with just thank you, like things
Yeah.
and like, whatever. And I think that right now, that's what's needed. We don't need to compare each other
Mm-mm.
because like even you and I, we have kind of similar lives, but also not really because, on a day-to-day basis, you don't know what's going on in other people's houses and you don't
Right.
know how this, works. And I think that when we compare, it's just harder. Like this is hard. And it's okay for you to say like, well, somebody else has it harder. Like, yeah, but it doesn't mean that it's not hard for me too.
Well, and I think because we share the chronic illness thing
Yep.
too, I think, and the teaching and doing the parenting
Yep.
and all of those things, I think we assume, right? Like, oh, okay, yeah, we get. I mean, I do really do think you're my soul sister, but um, I think this comparison game on social media, it really does need, just if it's not healthy for you, right, as a teacher, that unfollow button is so powerful, and you just have to do it, and you
Yeah.
just have to stop. um, as women, you know, even I think women just need to be supporting each other, and a lot of teachers are women. And if there's male teachers out there, you know, support male teachers need to be supported. Like, everybody needs to be lifting each other up. So for my question three, I had to mention Dr. Brene Brown because she's
Yay.
one of my idols and I love her so much. But she just talks about how comparison isn't just based on what you're seeing, but it's also because we compare suffering. And so when you said what you just said, and I was like, oh my gosh, this totally makes me feel like chronic illness people do this a lot. We compare sometimes like the levels of suffering. Like, I have this illness and it's worse than your illness, and so, you know, blah 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 blah. And it's like, no, we're all we're all battling something, and it there's different levels of how that affects our lives, and we need to just support each other. So I think right now, because people are afraid, because there's scarcity, like a little while ago there was no toilet paper. I mean, I still try to go get cleaning stuff and I still can't get my cleaning stuff. Like, I think all of those circumstances mesh together to create pain, panic, fear, sadness, all of those things. So now you layer that on top of, I want my kid to go back to school because XYZ reasons. How can teachers, and what can teachers do to battle all these emotions that are surrounding them right now with the current circumstances?
Well, and I think that that's, you bring up the chronic illness. Both you and I have illnesses that you can't see. And
Right.
so for me, I think it's taught me that I don't know everything about everybody else's life, and pain is relative. Like, I don't know what your pain level is. It's just
Right.
like suffering. Like, I don't know what it is cuz I only know mine. Um for me, staying away from energy vampires is a huge thing. So whether that is social media, whether it is somebody who, you work with that is constantly like taking whatever energy you have, it is setting like the wall of China around your emotions, even though I guess, well, that's maybe not the best one, but I mean, it's lasted forever.
It
But
has lasted forever, but I always say I put people in my circle of concern where it's like, I still love you, but you suck my energy, and
yes,
I just can't. I just slammed my fist on my my desk, and I'm sure that's going to be recorded
yeah.
as a really big noise. But I just can't have you in my life directly, because it really, I love the energy vampires thing. Like, it just sucks that from you, and we just don't. Our lives are so short.
Yes. Well, and I think that too, like, finding somebody outside of education to vent to, like for me, it's my sister. My
Mhm,
sister is a nurse. And so we vent to each other because it's like, I have no idea what you're talking about. And I know that you just want to vent, which means I
mhm.
don't have to do anything with this information but listen. And I think that you have those people in your life and you love them and you care about them, but it's okay for you to say, like, hey, Britt, can I stop you for a second? Are you venting to me or do you need help problem solving? Because sometimes it makes them step back too and understand, like, okay, what is it that I need? Because if you just need to vent, cool. Like, I don't need to do anything with that information. It's not going to really take a whole lot. Or, hey, right now, I would love to listen to you. I just can't do that. And if there are people that get mad about that, those are not your people.
Uh-huh.
And it sucks. And it's a
Yep.
very uncomfortable thing. But it's
Mhm.
also okay to just say, I actually can't do this right now.
My
Or,
husband has the best thing for this. So when we first got married, you know, obviously we were super young when we first got married. I was 22 and I think he just turned 21. And yeah, because we wanted to be able to drink at our wedding. So but he actually says this really cool thing. He's like, honey, right now, do you need a toolbox or do you need a bucket?
oh,
And I love that he says that. I don't know where we got that from. I can't even remember if it was from like a counselor, if it was from like a friend who went to counseling. I don't remember where we got it, but we use it all the time. Because I'll start shouting things, and he's an engineer. So like teaching, like the only thing he remembers about teaching is his experience in high school, which was like 20 years ago.
Yeah.
So he's like, I got nothing for you. But he's like, do you need a bucket to vent into? Do you need me to just do that? Or do you need a toolbox? For me to try to fix some of your problems for you. And so I think that's exactly what you're saying here. You mentioned the book, The Four Agreements Changed Your Life. And I just really quickly want you to touch on that.
Yes. So I'm an avid reader. I have like 6 books going right now because I just love books, and they all serve a different purpose in my life. But I was given the book, The Four Agreements, and I read it the first time and was like, this is some hippy dippy like crap. Yes. If you ask my friends how they describe me as hippy dippy. But then it was very much that the great burnout of 2016. And I read it and it was like, you know what? I can only control me. I can't control my external circumstances, and I don't want to be this way. I don't want to live this way. I can't do this to myself anymore. And that book completely changed my life. I still go back to it. And I actually have given it to students who are going through things, and it's like, just read this, because it really puts things in perspective. Like, you can't control other people, you can only control yourself. And I find myself like falling down traps, and I will revisit the 4 agreements and say like, okay, where am I at? Am I not being, kind with my words? Like, how am I using my words right now? Is that something that I want to put into the universe? And that is just my book that I continue to go back to. But
okay, well, now I got to go read it.
Yes. And I love like Louise Hayes. She has a lot of really good books. And that's actually how I start my day, is I'll read a chapter of those. And then today I was listening to Colin Jost's book because it was funny and I just needed something lighthearted.
Right.
But I get to control me. I can't control the pandemic. I can't control whether my husband and my daughter go to school. I can't control a lot of things about my job, but I can control me. And what are these emotions and what is this? Because I also need to show up in a world for my family that I am at a place where I get things. And that doesn't mean I don't get stressed. Last night I worked until like 6:30 and I came downstairs and my husband was like, is everything okay? And it's like, I would just like to eat and hang out with you guys. And he was like, okay, because I do not mince words. I don't play games. I want to eat and I just want to hang out with my family. And or you know what? I am just going to go upstairs and ride my bike, or I'm going to go upstairs and do some yoga, or I'm going to go into the bathtub and I just want to be left alone.
Yeah.
But it is like, I think that the book, The Four Agreements, taught me how to be in charge of myself and taught me how to like reframe how I think about things.
I love that. And I feel like as teachers, we need to think about ourselves first sometimes, because we were taught to think about our students first.
Yep.
And we really need to shift that mindset. And there was the big self-care movement obviously was great, but I think people took it to different extremes. And really what it comes down to is taking care of yourself so you can take care of those around you. And having younger children or older children, because that's a whole nother ball of worms. We know, we taught high school, that you need a break, as a teacher, as a parent, whoever's listening to this, anyone, you got to be able to take time to just refocus. So I'm going to write that down, and then I'm going to also put it in the show notes so everybody gets it, as well as those questions you were asking earlier about, is this good for you?
Yes. Also, self-care is not a bubble bath. If that works for you,
right.
Like sometimes
if that works for you, yes. Everybody judges me because I do TikTok. We talked about this earlier, and I told you, like, please God, don't go on TikTok because it'll like completely just take you away. But it's because that's actually my self-care, and people don't realize it. It's because I'm an extrovert, and being an extrovert in a quarantine pandemic with a chronic illness is really hard. So, especially you, as you know, being immunosuppressed, I
Yep.
can't go anywhere. And so I can't perform. And so teaching is kind of a performance for me. And I love seeing people's reactions to it. I love interacting with people. And on TikTok, I get to do that. And my husband realized later, a little later, after I was doing a few, he's like, oh my gosh, this is who you are when you're not home with us. Because when I'm home, I'm still energetic and happy for the most part, but I'm not kind of in that performance mode that I get in when I'm really into it, like when I'm really into what I'm teaching and I believe in it and I believe it's going to work and it's going to be great in a teacher's classroom and I get excited about the strategy because I'm such a nerd. And he's like, that's who you are, and I've never seen that side of you and that passion in you. And so that's my self-care. So it does, you're right, it doesn't
Mhm.
have to be, it is whatever it needs to be for you. And so finding that is important too.
Yep. For me, it's reading a book. Like I read Where the Crawdads Sing finally, and I just sat down and read it in a day. And I
That's
was like, that's what I want to do. I don't want to watch TV. I don't want to be on my phone. You know, my family kind of leaves me alone, but that is or I like to just watch movies.
mm-hmm.
Not ones I have to think about, but sometimes
Right.
I just want to lay there and drink my kombucha and eat my popcorn and watch like some sappy romance but that fills me up. And, you know, I'm
Right.
like you, I'm an extrovert, and working from home is so lonely. But I've
It is.
also been trying really hard to, like, you know, you call your girlfriends, you do all this other stuff. So self care is whatever you need it to be. And like Tabitha Brown, do you follow her on Facebook? Because if you don't, you should.
No, and I'm gonna
She
do it
is
right now.
amazing. But she always says, like, that is their business, not your business.
Oh yeah,
So,
uh-huh,
like,
uh-huh.
yeah, and I love that
I've heard
because
it. I didn't know that was from her.
yes.
But yeah.
But I say that to my daughter all the time. You know, she gets like wrapped up in things, and I'm like, okay, well, that's their business, not your business, or that's your business, not anybody else's. So even understanding that, like, I mean, people can think whatever they want about me. I am a good person. And I sometimes say that out loud to myself, like, okay, well, you don't like me, that's your business. Or you didn't like, you know, something. And that's
Right.
fine because you can't make everybody happy, but
Nope.
self-care is what you need it to be.
And you can't make everybody happy, and you can't make,
No.
you know, and that's just something I think everybody just you and it's okay to it's okay to agree to disagree. Like it can happen, and then you just got to move on. And then you can either not respond, block, or follow, do what you
Mhm.
need to do. Okay, so we kind of already talked a little bit about how you scheduled your teaching
Mhm.
and you would create an agenda that would help you sidestep your burnout. So the second question I think I had there was, okay, so many teachers just in general struggle with creating a schedule because first of all, it might not be in their nature to be a scheduler. Like I am super like type A, things are planned. I've got my calendar out, I've got this going, and it's all color coded and it's good. And then you other people that are like so much more, it's in the clouds, it's organic, and it's going to come together. And then when it does come together, it's awesome. And both are completely valid. But I feel like a lot of times when teachers are juggling with, I got to help my own children do their schoolwork, or I need to go over and help a friend who's struggling because one of their family members has COVID and is suffering, or I need to go do this other, grocery shopping or whatever this task is. Do you have a process for scheduling for someone who is less of a scheduler, or tips for any teachers who are just really feeling swallowed by the amount of work that they are doing? Because yes, mom on Facebook that I did answer a little bit ranty, they are working. Um,
Yes.
and just also being a human right now. Do you have any tips for because I think we could talk about like limiting your grading time.
Mhm.
And we already talked about close that email, right?
Yes.
Because that is like it's never going to stop, right? I mean, it will be there tomorrow.
And turn off your notifications.
Yeah. Mhm.
That email from that angry parent will still be there in the morning. And guess what? After a good night's sleep, you'll probably be better at dealing with it than you would after working 9 or 10 hours.
It'll probably make more sense too.
Yes.
I can't make sense out of anything by the time it's 5 o'clock. I'm like, I don't know.
Well, and you also like, for me, it started as what absolutely has to get done today. So I'd pick, a couple of things. Like, obviously, I have to teach. I would block out the time to help my daughter with her homework. And I would just look at my week. Like, what does this look like? What is realistic for me? And I think that, again, turning off the emails, because I found that I would check my emails at the beginning of the day, during my prep hour or lunch sometimes if I had the energy, and then after school. And I was actually more responsive to my colleagues. It wasn't these short, like, little things that I was trying to fire off, in the middle of, I just took attendance. My kids are still working on their warm up. So I'm going to do this really quick. Like, no, I'm going to be a teacher. And you always have those days that they're going to be so out of control, and all of a sudden you're going to blink and it's 7 o'clock. Um, just taking 5 minutes at the end of the day to say, like, okay, here's what happened today. Like, I did all of these really great things and I'm so proud of myself. And, even if it was just the fact that, like, your lesson went really well, or you ate breakfast this morning, like, celebrating those small things and then saying, I don't like feeling this way. So how can I adjust tomorrow? Because you can have all the schedules that you want, and some days they just don't work. And at the end of the day, saying, okay, I'm just going to really quick write down something that I did really well. I need to make sure I do this tomorrow, and then I'm going to leave. Because my schedule, and maybe your schedule, is I'm out the door by whatever time every day. So once school starts, or I'm going to shut my computer, and something that's realistic for you. For me, it was always 3 o'clock. But I also got to school early. Like, there were days that I'm like, I'm going to go to school super early today because I know I want to check emails. I need to get this assignment graded, and I know nobody will be there. So I'm going to do it, but I'm going to do it then. And,
Yep.
and I was just very protective of my time. And for me, it became, the schedule became itself. And when fourth quarter hit and everything was, there were times that I was in like 10 meetings a day.
Oh yeah.
And I finally was like, do I need to be in these meetings? Like, do I actually? And I would say no to some of them. And then it's like, well, why not? Okay, well, what do you need from me? Is this something that could just be an email?
Right. And you're not saying it in a way that's like disrespectful, but you're
No.
like, I need you to respect my time because I am trying to give the best I can to my students right now.
Mm-hmm.
And I can't do that if I'm getting sucked into this vortex of virtual meetings, or, a lot of teachers felt, like we put a lot of PD out all at once. And it was really hard for us because we were like, no, we really get that because remember, we are teachers, but we're on teacher contracts. And I think a lot of people don't know that we're on teacher contracts. And so we don't work in the summer. So we did try to work a lot in the summer because we wanted to make sure we were a little bit prepared, but because everything was pivoting so much all the time, you really never knew what you were going to be prepared for.
Yep.
So when we did finally get direction, it really was only 72 hours for us to turn around some PD. And that was really, it was hard, to turn off my computer. And I just looked at my husband and I said, I have to go into the office on this Saturday because it's the only day that I can be there because there's not like a bunch of people there and I can wear my mask and be safe, so I have to go in and work all this day, and he was like, I get it. Like, you got to do what you got to do. Yep. I never do that. I never go to work on a Saturday. Like, that's our family day. But I had to at that point. So I think I like the idea of putting yourself in a schedule, allowing yourself the times to not have, to exercise your rights to be outside of the schedule, right? Like, I don't need to be in this meeting because actually I was doing I need to do this other thing with this student, during that time. Or maybe it's, what, I got to just have some me time during the day. I'm trying to tell teachers to stand up and move and get their students to stand up and move. And not even just stretches, but just like anything fun, anything silly, even though this is a very hard fearful, uncertain time, I still think it's okay to have humor and silliness and, be joyful, because without that, we're not going to survive it. You know what I mean?
Yep. It's so funny because we, during fourth quarter when we're like, we're working so hard and we just don't know what's coming at us, we set an alarm every day at 3 o'clock and it would play closing time. Cause I don't know if you've seen that episode of The Office where
Yes,
Andy does it.
I love it.
It's like in The Office, that's our favorite thing to watch as a family. And my husband hates that song. And so my daughter thought it was so funny. And so we do it. And some days it was like, it's not realistic for me to shut my computer right now, but at least it gives me like okay, Liz, it's 3 o'clock. What needs to be done for you to shut your computer?
Right.
And then there were days I was like, woo, 3 o'clock. Like, I totally rock this day. I am logging off and singing the song because it annoys my husband.
And it makes your daughter laugh, and you can
It's
turn it up and be like,
Yep.
every new beginning comes from some other beginning's end, right?
And she, like, her giggle is so funny. And even those days where it's like my head hurts because all I've been doing is I'm online and I'm trying to figure out. And as soon as I figure something out, it changes. Like, it was just the flood of and it annoyed me after a while, but it's still you can just hear these giggles from across the house.
I love it.
And it was just the best. And so again, it was my scheduled time, but it also was I gave myself the grace to be I actually really want to finish grading these assignments so I can get them back to kids. So if I can spend 25 more minutes, I'm going to do that. And then I'd set an alarm for 25 minutes to some other silly song. And it was just a check-in with myself.
Right. Just to make sure, you still had that we have to stop at some point. I mean, you literally are speaking to me because right now I'm working until some nights I'm really good and I'll be like, nope, I'm done. I'm eating dinner with my family. I'm good. But then if there was a chaotic day, and I think it's because I spend so much of my morning with my kids.
Yes.
And I switch over into work mode around noon, I feel like I have to get my hours in. So I just feel like I have to work until 11 or whatever at night. And I can't continue that because I have to get up the next morning at 5 or 6 to get ready for my day so I can be there for my family. And I just feel like I feel like I just started the year burnt out, and I'm going. It's just I can't sustain it. And so I think what you're saying is not only speaking to me, but it's going to speak to a lot of teachers and people. Okay. Last question, because we got to wrap it up because, we're going to talk forever. I'm going to give some advice, or no, I want you to give your advice and then I'm going to give my advice, but because we've talked about a lot of stuff.
Yes.
But if you could give teachers, and also be thinking about those new teachers, you and I both have them, right? We mentor the brand newbies who have stepped into this crazy madness. What are your last pieces of advice out of everything we've talked about today? What would you say to teachers?
Setting firm boundaries, and whether that's boundaries on your time or your energy, and do what you need to do to understand that you're the expert in your classroom, because people will try to tell you that you're not, and you're just a teacher. I am the expert in my classroom, the end, and be very firm in that. And that doesn't mean that you know everything, because teachers are always learning and they should always be learning, but it's working on what you need and understanding that this is your classroom, this is your kid's classroom, and these are the boundaries around my time. So students, colleagues, parents, administrators, don't be afraid of your administrators, because admin also wants to make sure you're happy most of the time. Just set those boundaries and give yourself a ton of grace.
I love that. I think I would say limit their news intake.
Yes.
I have an email that comes to me daily from the New York Times.
It's their too.
It's their morning email. I read through that. I get my news, and then I move on with my day because I can't watch it. I just can't. And so, or I'll listen to a podcast. One of my favorites is Wait, Don't Tell Me.
Yes.
That's a fun way to get your news because it's like a game show. And sometimes I try to get it right or wrong while I'm sitting by myself. And my podcast time is in the morning when I'm getting ready.
Yes.
So that's my me time. And so I I'm a little opposite of you. You get up and you read.
Mm-hmm.
I get up and I usually get in the shower, and that's actually my thinking time. I do my best thinking in the shower. I use my kids. They're not actually my kids' crayons anymore because I've lifted them up so they have their own set and I have my own set. But I literally write notes in the shower to myself of ideas I have with the shower crayons. This is so embarrassing.
I love you. That's not embarrassing. That's genius.
But you know what? It's like having like a post-it note in your shower. And I just wash it off after every like week or whatever. And then it's kind of like, because I always get ideas in the shower. And then I come out and I stop those ideas and I listen to some of my favorite podcasts that have absolutely nothing to do with education. Harry Potter and the Sacred Text, I love. So anyways, just that I think set their limit on their news and then find their joy. Give themselves permission to just crawl into bed and rest when they need to rest. I think that was something I learned as somebody with a chronic illness going from 0 to 60.
Yep.
And all of a sudden, as you know, getting hit with a diagnosis and then literally being flat on your back for a good amount of time before you can start to regulate medicines and try to get up, and having little kids at the same time.
Yeah.
It's okay. Other people, I always felt comforted in my head knowing other people around the world were doing this. They were laying in their bed in the middle of what was supposed to be a work day or a regular day and resting for a little while because they needed to. And I always felt comfort in that I'm not being lazy. I'm resting for my own sanity and health. So I would suggest that to them. And also for the parents out there, I'm going to say this. Your kids will survive on Pop-Tarts, Lunchables, and TV for a little while right now.
As long as they're eating, you're good. My daughter has eaten all the macaroni and cheese that has existed in the entire world, and I'm fine with it.
I started off spring break and I was like, I'm going to make the meals. It's fine. But the longer this crisis has gone and we've been in quarantine and my kids have to really be safe and very, very, like yours, probably really, because you have all of these immunosuppressants, you're like, you can't really go out and do, all of this stuff. I'm like, I'm so sick of making food. Like it's self-serve. Like you find lunch is self-serve at this point.
Yep.
Here's some Lunchables. Here's some cheese and crackers, ham and cheese sandwich. Figure it out, because I was trying to make really healthy things all the time, and I was realizing it was really stressing me out to the max. And luckily, my lovely husband comes home and just makes a healthy dinner, because by the time the end of the day and all the snacks they've asked me for and all the food, I'm like, I don't want to feed them anymore. I love them to death, but I'm done. I almost feel like the Beast from Beauty and the Beast. Like, if you're not going to eat what I make, go ahead and starve.
I can actually hear the voice right now.
Because I'm like, I'm at my limit. And I think a lot of parents are. And I think a lot of parents have to remember, sorry, I just got something in my throat, but that teachers are also parents. And so they get done teaching all the little kids, and then they turn around and have to do all their little kid stuff with them too. And so it's hard being a teacher parent, especially, I think. So it's hard both ways. It's hard being a parent that knows nothing about teaching and is like, this is Common Core math and I have no idea what this is. But it's hard being a teacher parent who knows too much.
Yeah, exactly.
I think I know too much about teaching now. I need to step back and just be like, do your thing. You'll be fine.
Yep.
We all survived. So, all right. Liz, oh my gosh, I could talk to you forever. I'm so happy you emailed me and said, I have an idea, let's do this. And it was such a great idea to talk about burnout and comparison and just taking care of yourself. If people want more from you, where can they find you online?
So I am on Twitter. My Twitter handle is at E2, the number 2, SCHLEY. On Instagram, I'm at Teaching AP Government, and my blog is teachingapgovernment.com. And like Brett said, it has a lot of non-AP Gov stuff. And I actually just got an idea for a new post, and it's called Finding Your People, because it is 3:09 and my bucket is super full because I got to talk to you, Brett. This has just been awesome. And I think that is a huge thing, is finding those people that when you're done talking to them just make you feel so good. So thank you for having me.
Oh my gosh, it's so sweet. I know my bucket is so full too. I'm like, oh my gosh, this was so inspiring. Like, first of all, I've got like several new podcasts, books, and people to follow. And that makes me so happy because I always love great recommendations from great people. And I just think, thank you so much for reminding me to set some limits. I love that I literally took my phone and was like, oh, what is my do not disturb? Oh, it was 10 to 3 a.m.
Oh
That's
my
not.
gosh. No.
So I changed that. See, so you've already changed my life, and I so appreciate that. Just like you've changed the lives, I mean, of probably millions of students that you don't even know, and you probably will never know. And that is just, that burden of teaching is you just never know how far your reach extends, but it does extend.
It does.
And teachers need to remember that even in this remote time, your kids are looking forward to being with you. Even if they don't turn on their camera, they're still there and they're still listening.
Exactly.
So, all right. Well, thank you so much, Liz, for coming on. I appreciate it. It was so lovely. It was like the best.
Yay. Thank you. Take care of yourself.
Yes, you too. Have a good day.
You too. Bye.
Thanks for listening. I hope you have enjoyed this episode of Learning Unlocked and finding out a little bit more about how to sidestep that teacher burnout and that comparison trap. And also, like Liz said, finding your people that fill you up. Just a reminder that we are on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at GPS PROF GROWTH. That's at GPS Prof Growth. For more information or resources from this episode, please visit our website at learningunlocked.libsyn.com/website. Libsyn is spelled LIBSYN. If you have time to write us a review on Apple Podcasts, we would appreciate it. The more reviews and ratings we get, the more educators will see our podcast. So if you like what you've been hearing and you think other teachers would too, please head over and provide us a review. It would help us so much. Thanks. Thanks again, key holders. Keep unlocking that curiosity, creativity, and innovation with your students. I'll see you next time.
I find it funny that it says,
Oh my gosh, I'm recording now and you're talking.
sorry.